Well, joining us in the studio once again, Professor Liu Baocheng and Francisco Sisi. Well, actually, there were two parts of the APEC meetings. The first part of the SCO meetings and the second part of the leaders meeting. Right now, we are watching on the right-hand side is the live feed from the water cube. I believe it is the National Aquatics Center where the welcome ceremony for state leaders, for the economy leaders from APEC countries and the host partners will be held. President Xi Jinping will welcome the leaders of the major economies of APEC and the host countries' partners to join in tonight's banquet and also performance show inside the water cube. Well, the water cube is, of course, used to be a venue in the Olympics back in 2008, and now it has become a sports venue that has been used as entertainment facilities and also sports events organizations. And the first to come to this water cube is Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott. Australia is one of the largest capitalist economies in the world. It's dominated by service, which comprises about 68% of its GDP. Its mining sector represents about 19% of the country's GDP and is a very close economic and trade partner of China. Its government data shows the growth of the economy is powered by the mining and agriculture sectors. During the APEC gathering in Australia back in 2007, APEC members issued a declaration on climate change, energy security, clean government, which for the first time outlined future action in support of new international climate change arrangement. And followed by Chilean President Michelle Bachelet. Chile is considered one of the South America's most stable and prosperous nations. It leads Latin American rankings of human development, competitiveness, and per capita income, low perception of corruption. President Michelle Bachelet is just re-elected, representing her country at the APEC Economic Leaders Meeting. She plans to visit China for 4 days, starting from last Saturday. While the 2004 APEC meetings were hosted by Chile, which joined the group in 1994. During that meetings, the APEC members issued a statement of support for progress in Doha development agenda and set a target date for achieving breakthroughs in negotiations. But of course, we haven't seen breakthroughs of WTO negotiations so far, which proved how difficult it is to have a multilateral trade agreement. The meetings adopted in Chile adopted the best practices for RTAs and FTAs, the Santiago Initiative, expanded trade, and the data privacy framework. Leaders also expressed their resolve to confront the threat of terrorism, take further action in this regard by identifying the best ways to control exports, along with establishing guidelines on controlling man-portable air defense systems. And the gathering made a political commitment to fight corruption, ensure transparency, and endorsed a specific course of action towards achieving this. And this year around, anti-corruption is also high on the agenda of the APEC leaders. They have vowed to expand their cooperation on cooperation. This is Water Cube, the venue for tonight's dinner and performance show for the APEC economy leaders and leaders of the host partners. Now we see the motorcade of Hong Kong delegation. Well, Hong Kong is a vibrant city, a major gateway to Chinese mainland. It returned to China's sovereignty in 1997. It's the world's 8th largest trading economy. It is also a major service economy, particularly strong links to the mainland and rest of the Asia-Pacific region. In 2013, Hong Kong's GDP reached $260 billion. Sunday, President Xi Jinping met with Hong Kong Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying. President Xi says he supports the Hong Kong government's efforts to safeguard the rule of law and maintain social order. And followed by Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Well, Canada is one of the founding members of APEC. Back in 1989, it's the world's 11th largest economy and one of the world's top 10 trading countries. Well, China is now Canada's second largest trading partner. A Canadian Prime Minister arrived in Beijing on Sunday. He has already met with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This is Stephen Harper's third visit to China after he resumed office in 2006. He's here for a 5-day official visit to China besides APEC events in Beijing. But he made all the efforts to come to China despite the terror attacks in Ottawa just several days ago. Well, this is the Brunei, Sudan. Brunei is located on the north coast of the island of Borneo in Southeast Asia. According to IMF, Brunei is ranked 5th in the world by GDP per capita at purchasing power parity. And Forbes magazine ranks Brunei as the 5th richest nation in the world because of its petrol and natural gas supply. Sultan Hassanal Bolkiah is the country's 29th sultan, who also serves as its prime minister. Hassanal Bolkiah succeeded to the throne in 1967. The sultan said Brunei supports China's proposal on economic integration and connectivity at this year's APEC meetings, and Brunei supports China's policy to strengthen regional economic cooperation. The sultan paid a visit in China in 2013, which brought the bilateral relationship between China and Brunei to a new level of strategic cooperative partnership. You are now watching the live broadcast from the Water Cube, the National Aquatics Center, where President Xi Jinping and his wife is receiving heads of government and heads of state from 21 APEC economies and the host partners countries. And very soon they will have a banquet where President Xi is expected to make a welcoming speech for all the dignitaries. Well, let's come back to our studio discussions. Professor Liu, it's a very rare chance to see so many heads of state and government under one roof, hosted by China even. What do you think they have achieved through the meeting this time?
I think one important issue is a consensus to work towards a common goal, which is the prosperity of Asian Pacific region, and by which there are a number of means that they have already also built a common understanding, at least so far, by connecting with each other in terms of the infrastructure and in terms of the communication. And also there are a number of gigantic projects that are identified to launch. And then particularly I think the China's proposal to officially launch the negotiation and preparation for the FTAAP is a milestone one that can really solidify the fruition of APEC during the past 2 decades. So therefore APEC is now transforming from an informal type of a dialogue or forum into a more of a rulemaking platform. So which is very significant and also which is really required by the time and development of the new world regionalization and globalization. And I think now also the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank is a very concrete proposal, and this can really help to provide the financial strength to facilitate and the realization of connectivity both within the countries, within the members of the APEC, and also between the members of APEC and the rest of the
So
world.
it's not just to talk shops, they have substantial proposals on the table.
Exactly. So that's
but
the most
why-
impressive part.
But why haven't they decided on the roadmap and timeline for establishing a free trade zone around the Pacific yet?
Well, we have to respect the history and the current status quo because the level of development is so diverse and even polarized among this region. And the political system, culture, they also require a longer time to really to build a consensus and to build a common rule-playing game rule. So therefore, with this one important platform, at least we are able to move forward with certain proposals by sharing the same goal.
And now we see Prime Minister Abe from Japan. Prime Minister Abe has always been seeking to meet President Xi in the context of frayed relations between the neighbors because of territorial disputes and history issues. But Japan's economy is the third largest in the world. Of course, China is the second largest. Japan is the world's third largest automobile manufacturing country, largest electronics goods industry, and ranked among the world's most innovative countries. Earlier, President Xi and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe had a meeting, and President Xi told Abe that China hopes Japan continues to follow the path of peaceful development. There are motorcades coming to the water cube in different orders, and now we have a new motorcade coming to the National Aquatics Center, and this is Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea's Prime Minister Peter O'Neill arrived in Beijing Sunday night. Papua New Guinea is one of the most culturally diverse countries in the world. It became the sixth fastest growing economy in 2011 owing to its soaring growth in mining and resources. And Papua New Guinea's GDP reached about $16 billion in 2013. Peter O'Neill arrived in Beijing Sunday, or in Beijing. He expected to speak about infrastructure development and how to improve connectivity within the Asia-Pacific region. And China is one of Papua New Guinea's largest trade partners. And we are followed by Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto. Mexico is one of the largest economies in the world. It's member of NAFTA. It is the 14th largest nominal GDP, 10th largest oil producer, and the country's economy is tied to North America free trade agreement partners, especially its northern border, the United States. President Peña Nieto arrived in Beijing today and will attend APEC meetings. Tomorrow, in 2013, China-Mexico relations were elevated to comprehensive strategic partnership, while China becoming Mexico's second largest trade partner. Well, this is a motorcade that is more easily recognized because this has stayed always his own motorcade. President Obama of the United States. The U.S. is the world's largest national economy, the number one economy, followed by China. Its GDP in third quarter this year was estimated to be 17 trillion US dollars. In the second quarter of 2014, Mr. Obama, obviously wearing traditional Chinese suit, kept coming to the water cube. U.S. President Barack Obama is also paying a state visit to China, attending apart from attending the APEC leaders meeting. Prior to Obama's visit, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said Washington would cooperate closely with Beijing to make APEC economic leaders meeting a success. He said President Obama is looking forward to the visit. The United States is ready to work with China to push forward the establishment of a new type of relationship. By the end of 2011 APEC gathering in the U.S., leaders issued the Honolulu Declaration, where they committed to taking concrete steps towards a seamless regional economy, addressing shared green growth, advancing regulatory cooperation and convergence. And this time around, President Obama and Mr. Xi Jinping will come to talks with more issues covering security, economy, and people-to-people exchanges. Philippine President Benigno Aquino III is the 15th president serving since June 2010. He arrived in Beijing on Sunday. The Philippines is a Southeast Asian country with over 7,000 islands. It's the 39th largest economy in the world with an estimated GDP of $272 billion. Primary exports include semiconductors, electronic products, transport equipment, and coconut oil. The economy has been transitioning from one based on agriculture to one based more on services and manufacturing. Then is followed by Prime Minister John Key of New Zealand. Prime Minister Key arrived in Beijing on Sunday. He's been serving as Prime Minister since 2008. New Zealand is an island country in the southern Pacific Ocean. It has a modern and developed market economy with an estimated GDP at purchasing power parity per capita just over $29,000. The country is dependent on international trade, particularly in agricultural products. And that's why China is among the major trading partners, which also include Australia, US, Japan, and the United Kingdom. And followed by the representative from Taiwan, headed by senior politician Su Wan-chang. Su is the chairman of the Taiwan-based Cross-Strait Common Market Foundation. He is being devoted to promoting Taiwan's integration with regional economies in Asia-Pacific. 75-year-old Su has been serving in different positions in Taiwan. Sunday, he was received by President Xi at the Great Hall of the People. During their talks, President Xi said Chinese mainland and Taiwan should respect one another. The president stressed both sides should develop mutual trust. And this is followed by Thailand. Thai Prime Minister. Thailand is, of course, the 12 founding members of APEC, the host for the APEC meetings in 2003. Thailand's GDP stood at $387 billion in 2013. Manufacture, agriculture, and tourism are the leading sectors. Thailand is currently governed by the military, took power in May this year. On August 21st, the Thai National Legislature elected Prayut Chan-o-cha as the new Prime Minister. And this is President Chom Tam Sam. Vietnamese President Chom Tam Sam is in Beijing for the APEC Economics Leaders meeting. In 2006, APEC leaders endorsed the Hanoi Plan in Vietnam, which identifies specific actions and milestones to implement the BOGO goals and support capacity building to help APEC economies. Vietnam is a leading agriculture exporter and an attractive destination for investments as well as tourists in Southeast Asia. According to the IMF, the nominal GDP of the country surpassed $170 billion, with GDP per capita of $1,900. During the APEC meeting in Hanoi, they also issued a statement on the WTO Doha development agenda, calling for ambitious and balanced outcomes. And this is followed by President Abdul Hamid of Bangladesh. Bangladesh is the host partners dialogue countries, is not a member of APEC. It's just on the sidelines of the meeting. The host partners dialogue countries are those who are involved in strengthening connectivity and improving cooperation in China's neighborhood. But Bangladesh has a strong interest in becoming a member of APEC. During the session of APEC CEO Summit on November the 9th, President Abdul Hamid said that Bangladesh is keen to be part of any prospective regional economic and cooperative process in order to be more familiar with the emerging demand and supply chain in Asia Pacific. Bangladesh has been managing a growth rate of over 6%. That's quite impressive in its annual GDP for the past several years. And its economy stands within the top 45 economies in the world in terms of GDP and foreign currency reserves. So we have both APEC economy members and those what we call host partners, mainly from Central Asia and South Asia and Southeast Asia. Why at this occasion gather so many member economies that span a large area in the world?
Well, actually looking at the site and also following your introduction, it reminds me something that is similar to the procession of Olympic. But the difference is that after the procession for Olympic, there's tough competition. But for this one, after this procession, there's going to be a closer cooperation. This type of gathering is really attracted by a common interest. That is to seek ways for closer cooperation for a better Asian Pacific area. And then also, they are also attracted by the great host of China, not only because of the minor issues of China's traditional hospitality, but also China's growth strengths.
And China has been known for its hospitality, and this time around, it is shown to the full extent. This is South Korean President Park Geun-hye. Just today, China and South Korea have finished their talks on FTA agreements. So China will soon establish FTA with South Korea. But the Republic of Korea has an export-oriented economy, was the 7th largest exporter and importer in the world. The World Bank describes South Korea as one of the fastest growing major economies of the next generation, alongside BRICS countries in Indonesia. President Park Geun-hye has already had a bilateral summit with President Xi on the sidelines of APEC summit, while South Korea chaired the APEC meetings back in 2005. This is Mongolian President Sakyajin Elbadorji. Mr. Elbadorji has been president of Mongolia since 2009. And Mongolia is one of the countries who recently attended the host partners dialogue. It has been intensifying its bid to become the 22nd member of APEC. It has made its first official bid in 1993 and has pushed on since then. If Mongolia joins APEC, it will be the first landlocked country to join the bloc. Of course, mineral-rich Mongolia has a relatively small economy. This is followed by Indonesian president. Indonesian president is first to visit Mr. Joko Widodo. It's the first visit of this president. He is just elected in Indonesia. Indonesia is, of course, an archipelago comprising of thousands of islands. It is the largest economy in Southeast Asian nations, among Southeast Asian nations, an important trade region since the 7th century. President Joko Widodo was sworn in as the country's president only October the 20th. It is in Beijing representing his country at the APEC meeting. It's considered unique in Indonesian presidential history because of the support coming from the grassroots, and he was not part of the political elite. And now we have Lao president coming to the Water Cube. Lao is, of course, the host partners dialogue countries attending APEC leaders meeting. The Lao economy depends very much on investment and trade with his neighbors like Thailand, Vietnam, especially China. Subsistence agriculture accounts for half of the GDP. Tourism is also a fast growing industry, and this is Lao President Shumali. So we have both APEC economies and also the host partners, dialogue countries. This is Singaporean President Lee Hsien Loong. Of course, Singapore is a highly developed economy, market economy. It's been ranked the most open one in the world. The least corrupt one was low tax and third highest per capita GDP in the world. Singapore's Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong, of course, is no stranger to APEC. In 1989, he led the Singapore delegation to the ministerial meeting that launched the organization of APEC. The APEC meetings in 2009 were held in Singapore. The gathering launched the supply chain connectivity framework back then in 2009. And this is followed by a Peruvian president, Ollanta Humala. Ollanta Humala announced his country would host the 2016 APEC leaders meeting. Peru is an upper middle income country by the World Bank. Also chaired the series of APEC meetings back in 2008. APEC leaders focused on social dimensions of trade back in that meeting and reducing gap between developing and developed world.